Welcome to the Right Academy. I'm Matthew R. Miller. Isn't it one of those things, just when I start to record, the neighbor starts to vacuum? So sorry, the very second. So sorry if there's some background noise. I'm going to try to filter it out in the final cut. But today we're talking about 3 things you can do to make your writing come alive to the reader, to make your writing descriptive and beautiful. Okay, so remember the point of writing a book, in my opinion, one of the main points is to immerse the reader in a world, okay? To make them forget about the world they're in and imagine themselves in the world you have created, so that when they finish the book, they're going to miss the world. If a character dies, they're going to cry, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of things we can do to be immersive, but let's talk about 3 simple ones right now. First thing, use sensory language, the 5 senses, okay? So imagine that you are writing a scene of someone walking through, let's say, a market, an open market. Okay, maybe it's near you, maybe it's someone in another country. I used to live in China, mainland China, and when I walked through the food markets, it was just a sensory experience. I would see, the food, fresh vegetables, the meat, the pigs and the cows having been slaughtered that morning, hanging. They're still butchering them. Some of the seafood was live. There was the aroma of meat and vegetables and little cooking stalls of noodles and spicy curry and things like this. There was the overwhelming din of the people talking and bartering and trying to negotiate a price. There was the feel of the tables as you touched them, as you looked at the food, as your feet walked on the floor that sometimes was wet, the cement floor. And so, all of these things were the 5 senses, and it's an amazing experience. Now, use the sensory language in your writing, the visual, okay, what you see. For example, you could say things are light, shiny, sparkly, dark, dull. You can say the size of things, enormous, gigantic, miniature, minuscule. Color, you can have an earthen hue, a pastel, a washed out, a sepia tone, a day glow, things like that. Things you hear. Is it deafening or is it whispering? Is it the rustling of a curtain? The rhythm, the repetitive, monotone nature of some languages versus Chinese, which has tones, the rising and falling. Tactile, if you're feeling something, is it soft? Is it feathery? Is it hard? Is it rough? Is it knobby? Does the room feel freezing? Does it feel scalding? Does it feel warm, like you just got out of an ice bath and now we're in a heated house? The flavors, what does it taste like? Sugary, bittery, tart, astringent, umami, gamey, meaty, wild, herbal. What about the texture? What about the chips were crunchy and crispy, or the bread was spongy and soft? Things that you smell, right? The floral aroma of the room, the harsh chemical smell of cleaners in the hospital room. Was it musty and stale like an old tomb, or was it fresh paint like you just moved into a house? Okay, so use the 5 senses in your writing. Make it descriptive. That's one thing you can do. Second, you can use similes. Now, we're going to talk about similes and metaphors for a second. They're both comparisons of things. Similes are things that uses the word like or as. Actually use the word in the simile. So, for example, a famous one, everyone knows the line from Forrest Gump, right? What did Mama always say? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. It seems like it's such a simple simile, but everyone knows it. It's a famous line. Harry Potter, Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. You can kind of imagine that. Then a metaphor is like a simile, but you don't use the word like and as. You say something is something. So The Hunger Games, that's a book a lot of people know. The capital is a prison, and we are all prisoners. She didn't have to say the capital is like a prison. The capital is a prison, and people understood that it felt like a prison. It wasn't literally like Alcatraz. The Handmaid's Tale, her face was a map of the world, marked with the scars of time and experience. Her face is not literally a map, a paper map. We understand that it has all the scars and lines map out her past life and what she's been through. Okay, so similes and metaphors, they're good because they also create descriptive images in the reader's mind. You know, if it's hard to describe what you want to describe, think about something simple in the world that everyone knows and compare it to that, you see? As an example, I don't know what it feels like to fall off a cliff or out of an airplane, and I'm not sure I could ever make myself skydive, but I do know what it was like when I was a kid jumping off the high dive board at the swimming pool, that feeling of free falling, that loss of control for a moment, that panic, and then the relief when you finally hit the water and you're okay. You could compare it to that. If you don't know what skydiving feels like, describe jumping off the high diving board. So all of these things draw the reader into your world by comparing things to things the readers know, or by using the 5 senses. When you describe a scene, you're creating immersive environments. And that's very important. That's one of the things that's going to make readers love your books. I hope that helps. I wanted to mention very quickly, I have a Patreon. If you wanted to receive original, terrifying horror stories, short stories written by me, check out my Patreon link in the description. There's many tiers. You can have them delivered once a week, a couple of times a week, every single day. And so that would be very helpful for the channel. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. I'm Matthew Miller, and you're watching the Write Right Academy.